Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about embrace change with extreme programming. Let me show you a picture first. This picture demonstrates that the evolution of waterfall models and its long development cycles to the shorter iterative development cycles and finally to the extreme programming. In the very beginning, we used the waterfall model to develop the software. The waterfall model consists of 4 stages. The first one is analysis. The second one is design. The third one is implementation. The final one is test. In the analysis stage, we need to get the requirements of software from the customers. In the design stage, we allocate the requirements to either hardware or software systems by establishing an overall system architecture. Also, we will identify and describe the fundamental software system abstractions and their relationships. In the implementation stage, the software design is realized as a set of programs or program units. In the final test stage, the individual program units or programs are integrated and tested as a complete system to ensure that all the requirements are met. In the test stage, the individual program units or programs are integrated and tested as a complete system to ensure that the requirements are met. After that, the software will be delivered to the customer. So, why not use the waterfall model forever? The first reason is that users may not tell the developers what exactly they want. Therefore, it is not easy to get the accurate user requirements in the first phase of development cycle. Hence, developers' hard work may not pay off because of the wrong requirements. And also, the developers may need to do more work to deliver the software. And the second reason is that the cost of changing a piece of software rose dramatically over time. The waterfall's long development cycle implies that it is difficult to make changes when development proceeds. As waterfall model has such drawbacks, we are now using extreme programming. But what's the difference between waterfall and extreme programming? Rather than planning, analyzing, and designing for the far-flung future, extreme programming exploits the reduction in the cost of changing software to do all of these activities a little at a time. We can now take a glance at the extreme programming development cycles. As we can see, there are 4 stages: the exploration stages, the iteration planning stages, and the iteration stages, and finally the release stages. Now we will explain the extreme programming development cycle. The whole development cycle is broken into iterations. Before the project starts, we need to analyze what the software can do and what it should do first. And the overall analysis will be put together in terms of story. And then we will start the iterations until the whole software is delivered. Here's the extreme programming development timescale. At the scale of weeks and months, you have stories in this iteration and then the stories remaining in this release. At the scale of days and weeks, you have the tasks you are working on now, and then the rest of the tasks in the iteration. And at the scale of minutes and days, you have the test case you are working on now and then the rest of the test case that you can imagine. So, what will we do in each iteration? First, the user picks the release by choosing the most valuable features from among all of the possible stories. Second, the programmers turn the stories into small-grained tasks. Third, programmers sign up for the task they want to be responsible for implementing. The implementation starts, and then the programmer turns the task into a set of test cases that will demonstrate that the task is finished. Finally, the programmer will integrating the code and testing the current systems.
Let me tell you what's the characteristic of the implementation in extreme programming. All product code is written with two programmers at one machine. The responsible programmer first finds a partner. If there's any doubt about the scope or implementation approach, the partners will have a short meeting with the customer or programmers most knowledgeable about the code most likely to be touched during implementation. The partner also contains the list of test cases needs to run before the test is done. The partner programmers pick up a test case that they are confident to implement. When the test case is cooked up and already runs, there is work to be done. After the test case runs, if there is a way to refactor the system to make it cure, the programmer do so. The programmers work with partner. They can quickly solve the problem they face. They also can understand the requirements much more by asking the user questions. What's more, they can get the accurate requirements after meetings. Hence, effort paid in development wrong requirements would be greatly reduced. Change in requirements will be easily handled with lower cost. In other words, the extreme programming provides a lower cost way to handle the change in requirements. The other characteristic of the implementation in extreme programming is programmers write their own tests and they write these tests before they code. Extreme programming primarily addresses the wisdom that the programmers can't probably test their own code by having programmers code in partners. The extreme programming testing strategy do not require any more work than the usually bench testing strategy. What the advantage is? First, the tests record in permanent form. Those tests will run automatically all the time. The extreme programming teams gains confidence in the behavior or the operation of its system. Second, the programmers provide a chance to enhance the programming technologies. Programmer can learn from tests written by someone else days or weeks after the course. When you are using extreme programming, you will face some problems that we need to overcome. For example, the problem in underestimation, unoperative customers, turnover, or changing requirements. In underestimation, you will face a problem that you commit to more than you can accomplish. You need to re-estimate based on what you have learned. Then ask the customer to reschedule. You should remember that you must reduce the occurrence of underestimation as much as possible by getting lost of practice estimating. If you get some uncooperative customers who are not involved in the development process, you should build a trust relationship with customer. In development process, you should complete functionally iteration after iteration and give customer clear control over development. In turnover, if someone leaves, won't you be stuck with documents and reviews? When someone leaves an extreme programming project, it isn't like they can take away any secrets that only they know. Two people were watching every night go into the system, and whatever information does work out the door. It can't hurt the teams too much because they can run the tests to ensure that they haven't broken anything out of ignorance. The programmers of extreme programming, they may always have a problem that changing requirement. For getting better results with less planning, you can only ask the customer to pick which story should be in the present iteration. If a new story comes up, you don't have to shove the remainder of the iteration. You just put it in the pile 1 or 2 weeks later. If the story still seems urgent, the customer will pick it. Here, I will give you some tips for using extreme programming. Try extreme programming where it is applicable. Outsourced or in-house development of small-sized to middle-sized systems where requirements are vague and likely change. Don't swallow it all at once. Pick the worst problem in current process and try solving it in the extreme programming way. If the old practices aren't helping, stop doing them. The end of our presentation.